And a good day to you, Explorer Nation. John Lynskey here, season 4, episode 18 of Looking Back with Lynskey. And an exceptionally special edition today because we are honored to be joined by a true Columbus legend. Yes, that phrase often gets overused. This case, it's absolutely true. Hall of Famer, 44 years in the classroom, in the trenches at Columbus High School, an icon. The ripple effect of this man's career reaches through the decades. He started off as a mentor, a role model, and has become a dear friend. So please, on behalf of all of us, welcome to the show, Dr. Panzer. Great to have you here.
Well, John, it's absolutely great to be here, and I really appreciate your pursuing me to do this. The stars finally aligned, and here we go. It's great.
You know, better late than never, and so no better time than the present. And we were talking, Fred, beforehand. When you have a career as long and as esteemed as yours, people just assume you came with the building. I mean, a lot of people fall into that category, but clearly, there's a backstory before August of '76 when you arrived in Westchester. So take us back to where it all began, Fred, growing up in New York and your education and your desires to become a teacher. Just go ahead and tell us about Fred Panzer pre-Columbus.
Oh, wow. That's a while ago. I'm a New York City kid, the Upper East Side. And according to Mr. Delgado and what he knows here, Fred Panzer was a thug. But that's another story. I went to grammar school around the block. I went to high school at Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx. And that's where I first met Maris Brothers. They were part of this pastiche of teachers that I had there. And I went to school at the St. John's University.
Yes.
Because I couldn't go to Notre Dame because my mother had contracted cancer and I couldn't leave New York. So I stayed there because they paid. And I got my master's degree at Hunter, as did Brother Eugene and Brother Kevin.
Yes.
And with that, went to the high school to teach. I first started, though, at a grammar school in the neighborhood, Saint Jean Baptiste. It was a private Catholic school, and did 2 years there as the head of the English department for the middle school and reading, etc. Did 2 years, got a chance to go to my high school because the place opened up. Did that for 2 years. I had a New York City teacher's license. So I said, okay, let's see if I use that before I lose it and get a couple more bucks and straighten things out. Okay, so I bailed and went to the most Catholic public high school in New York City, a place called Chelsea Vocational High School.
Okay.
That was a very positive experience. My journalism class became the officers for the school. We resurrected the newspaper. I taught a reading class there that Mr. Delgado benefited from years later. One of the jokes there, they have a student union thing, student store, and they order things like Brother Kevin's store does.
Yeah.
So they ordered some pencils, and it's supposed to say Chelsea Vocational High School. So someone blundered. It came back, Chelsea Vacational.
Of course they did.
And we just went with that for a little while. It was a wonderful thing. They had a Newman Club, very Italian, very Catholic place. It was great for 2 years. I was getting good reviews, getting unofficially promoted to a couple of different things, etc. But that's when Abe Beam, who was the mayor of New York City, and New York City broke the piggy bank, and nobody wanted to bail him out.
Yeah.
So I was like a low man on the totem pole there, and I had just gotten a professorship at New York City Community College. Just got it. The secretary called Consuelo at the home and said, "How do you feel about that?" She said, "What?" Blah, blah, blah. She didn't know about it. And I had the job, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day, I believe, they called her back, said, he doesn't have the job.
Oh, geez.
Why? The quota system. They had to hire ethnicity and sex, etc. So a lovely black woman took my spot. I didn't have a Spanish name. I couldn't use Deschapelle. It was too French. So I lost that, and I lost the other one at the same time. So here I am walking around, and I'm at the unemployment line in Queens,
Oh boy.
And yeah, with a 1-year-old with Fred, the 1-year-old at home holding mommy's hand, and I'm at the unemployment line, and Brother Edmund calls because
Wow.
a couple of years earlier we would visit Coral Gables to visit Concy's folks, who had a
Okay.
place to come down for the Easter, etc. So I said, hey, this is a whole lot different from playing football in the street and running through cars and stuff like that. My kids might like that. So we had it in the back of our mind to possibly come down. So when this happened, we said, well, that push became shove. And I said, okay, let me do this. So I came down alone and stayed at my in-laws' house until Consuelo came down later. And Edmund called while I was on the line, and Consuelo explained to him what was going on. So I interviewed for the job at Malloy. It was just around the block, pretty much where I lived in Queens. So I
Okay.
went to Malloy and interviewed there with the principal, the chairman of the English department, and like I like to say, I fooled them again. And they said it was okay. They told Edmund, and Edmund and I conversed on the phone, blah blah blah, and it was like a Walter Alston thing. You had a 1-year contract, so if you mess up, you don't have a job. I said, if I don't have a job, I said, I don't think I'll mess up. That's what happens here. So I
Yeah.
went down, and it was cute. It was okay. The Maris were very nice to me. They were going to put me up if I didn't have a place to stay. Edmund and I went to Abraham Chevrolet, rented a car, and that was cute because Edmund's credit card wouldn't work, so I did it. And they were a little leery about who's this guy just coming in here now, ordering stuff around, ordering things and getting this, what's happening. So that all worked out as a fine thing eventually. But that was that, and I did. I started teaching in A11, the fishbowl,
Yes.
next to Lou Savito's office.
Yeah.
That was a nice experience. I was able to drive right up to the room, get out of the car, go in there, teach, go in there, and go out again. But because of in September, I had missed the football situation, obviously. So I wound up doing baseball that first year as a JV thing with Bob Lewis was the head coach.
Yeah.
And he said, you want to try this one? So I finally did that. And then the next year for football, I started with that. Did the JV a couple of years, went up to the varsity for the year that they, for 1 year. Then the next year they went state. Circumstances suggested I had to stop doing it with the kids, et cetera, and teaching, because I was also simultaneously teaching at Miami-Dade. I got my professorship back, and I did a shadow thing for all the time at Columbus. I was an itinerant professor or a circuit riding professor for universities. Miami-Dade, principally, University of Miami,
Yeah.
Thomas University, FIU. You pick it. I've been there. It's like working in the fields and picking cotton. I was doing these different places at the same time, and having a good time doing it. So I got from grammar school to graduate school for students.
And you're pretty good at it, no doubt. Let me ask you a question, though, because everybody has their path to becoming a teacher. Some are very direct, very linear. Some kind of go up and down. Do you remember, Fred, when you knew you wanted to teach English, and why English?
Oh yeah, I think it was the eighth grade.
Okay.
The eighth grade, back in the eighth grade, because like many people would say, it was easy. For me, it was very easy. I have
Why was it so easy, Fred?
I have a natural ability for languages, logic, and this, and ability to write. In the grammar school, I would write for final exams, et cetera. And in the eighth grade, the principal thing was the nun wanted to see the scrap paper for the essays for one reason or another. So I lied. I said, I threw it away. I never did one. I just did the 1, 2, 3, hello, goodbye, wrote it. And I've been writing papers that way ever since. And I've been doing a little bit of editing thereafter, but predominantly it's been as you go along, you write it up and put it together. And so it's just a gift. And then being able to move from the phase 2, the reading. I started that class, but I had asked Edmund about that. And I said, around here, these guys really need some reading, because I had these guys a senior year and they're tapping out on grammar school level reading, and nobody's ever caught that. So we caught it. we changed it around a little bit, and then things happened, and that class was very successful while I had it. A couple other people taught it also, but not the same way. And then after a while, I got back into that and resurrected it a little bit. But that was that. But yeah, the teaching was always a natural thing, I guess. I've been written up as saying he's a natural in the classroom, whatever it takes to be that, all through my career in the various schools and places like that. And
Question for you, because yes, you were a natural. There's no doubt about it. You could have done other things.
yeah, oh yeah,
You could have. And I think it's a tribute to people like yourself and many others at Columbus. You could have done something else. It was a decision to teach because it was a calling,
But yeah, basically, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, I found my granddaughter is studying to be a lawyer. I found that to be too boring.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it. I mean, so it's okay, great, blah, blah, blah. But then what kind of law? It says it's good. It's an honorable profession. I do accounting on the side. Sioka will verify that, et cetera. And I guess I was afraid of blood, so I didn't want to pursue the MD. And to be a psychologist, a psychiatrist, you had to be an MD first. So you couldn't get into the mental stuff until you did the physical. So I said, help that. I won't do that. And like you said, it was a natural kind of deal. And it's never been a job. It's like coaching the football. It was never a job.
Yeah.
It was a vocation. It was a teaching opportunity because you took guys who were JV players and you taught them the essentials, et cetera, et cetera. And they went on to very good things as individuals and as a team.
Yes.
Et cetera. So it was very rewarding that way to influence people that way, et cetera.
Fred, I just had a thought come into my head about that. I mean, your kids could hit the sled and quote Shakespeare at the same time.
Yeah.
It just seems that there's something about Columbus where so many great history and English teachers also became tremendous football coaches. And it's not quite like that anymore. It still is, but just not to the degree it was back then. If you look at some of your contemporaries, they became my contemporaries. They were excellent at both because coaching, after all, is just teaching outside.
Right. You get a little more sun and a little fresh air, et cetera, et cetera. A little bit different. You run around a little bit. Get to get a rhinestone whistle, wear your shorts, and you have a great time running around. But yeah, maybe it's because of the discipline that we taught. It's a little broader than many different things, and you were open to a lot more different ideas and perspectives, and you got to understand the kids maybe a little bit better because of the background from your history and the English would span, from the beginning of time till the day you were out there on the field.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of background to help yourself out.
Okay, here's a chance to set the record straight once and for all, because there's the Panzer mystique, if you will. Dr. Panzer, did you get a perfect score on the SAT?
Well, to come clean, here's what started.
Here it is, Fred.
This is what started. Whatever happened when I first got to Columbus, I walked in there not knowing anything about their background. I wound up with a phase 2 class. I didn't know it was a phase 2 class. And I come waltzing in there as a New York City teacher, which is ironclad, Teflon, et cetera, doing his business. So I did my thing. And apparently I used big words. I used polysyllabic words, sesquipedalian words.
You can't do that to the not yet smart Fred. No.
Big words. He always has big words. Coach Lewis said he's a very intelligent man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, we did all this and it built up. So one of the seniors there asked about that. And my response was, quote, I got a score to get into whatever school I wanted to get into.
Okay.
Which can be interpreted. Where I wanted to go, my score would let me in. That doesn't mean it would open it up to Harvard or UCLA, or it did open up to Notre Dame. But it didn't mean it was a carte blanche thing to go any place in the world. And then from there, somebody said, we got this thing and blah, blah, blah. And then the kicker was he did it twice. And I said, no, wait, oh man, I got to deny it twice. Let me live the mystique of once, because I did a halfway decent score to get into wherever I was going to go, enough to build up a reputation.
Well,
But that
yes.
was the interpretation of the line, a score to get into wherever I wanted to go. And I did. But that doesn't mean every single place in the world.
But that's classic Columbus, because I remember all of this as a student, because I remember when you arrived, and being a history guy and all that, the last name alone, Panzer. Oh my God, Blitzkrieg. Here we go.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, and
Dr.
then
Burris got a kick out of that, because one of my opening lines with these new kids was, look, the Panzers, like the Panzer Division, the tank. So if you do good things and stay behind me, I will protect you and you will go through this. If you don't, I will blow you out of the water, and that'll be the end of it.
I'll crush you with my treads. Yes.
There you go.
So I remember the guy started talking. Hey, man, this guy's really smart. He got a perfect score on his SAT. You ought to hear this guy. And so very quickly, and you were from New York, and you have mentioned in the past that George Carlin grew up in your neighborhood.
Yeah, he did. He and his brother went to the same high school that I did, as did Martin Scorsese, Regis Philbin. So there are a bunch of guys that come from the same background.
You have certainly when you were a younger man, wore younger man's clothes. You were very George Carlin-esque in with some of your humor, and so we've told this story so many times. So I'm hearing all about this guy Panzer, and one thing I had the greatest English teachers at Columbus High School. I did. I had Mike Foster, I had Norma Going, and I had Mike Dean. And Mike Dean changed my life. Okay, no doubt about it, in so many ways. And so I did fairly well, right? So I qualified for AP English. This guy Panzer's going to teach it. I have almost no disappointments about my time as a student. But when me and John Metzger, Quintero, and those guys found out that you weren't going to teach AP, it was a crushing blow. And no need to mention anything, but suffice it to say that we spent our time in class not being in class. We still there?
Yeah. There's a little glitch there.
Yeah, a little glitch. So we'll move forward. Anyway, it was incredibly disappointing. I mean, it all worked out. But if I have any regret, all the years we worked together, I never got to experience the class of Fred Panzer.
The Panzerian experience, I guess. Yes. It's notable for several reasons, positive, negative, and everything in between. Touched all the bases, and apparently we hit a home run a couple of times. But
yes,
it was always an exciting thing to do that. I always enjoyed it. It was always good. The kids were always spectacular. Those guys did their homework. So the deal was you got to read. If you don't read, you bleed. And so, you don't say you don't have any homework. You always have something to read. And they had every quarter, they had a paper to do. They had 4 papers. And they got a chance to decide on what. One had to be on a novel. One had to be on a play. One had to be on short prose essays or short stories, and one had to be on poetry. So you pick the genre, you pick the particular piece, and let me know ahead of time, because it doesn't have to be strictly English. If it's going to be international, because for a while AP was world lit. And then the curriculum changed and it became the English part of the whole deal. But I said, there's no sense not being able to expand and to know things on a greater scale. So as long as I knew what you were doing, it was fine. So the papers were only 5 to 7 pages, so you couldn't fertilize the farm. You had to really stick to it. You really had to stick to it. So I said, look, by the time you finish this paper, you're going to be a teensy-weensy little expert on that subject. And then you'll be able to say to somebody later, well, I wrote a paper on that once, and then you can have a cocktail and blow the whole thing. But Yeah, that was the deal. It was always good. We always prepped. I never was intimidated by preparing to teach AP. People say, AP, blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah blah. No, it never bothered me at all. We like water off the duck's back. You go in there and you do that. You go boom boom. You go to the phase 2 of the reading. You go in there and you do that. And a lot of the stuff cross-referenced. You taught the 2s the same way you taught the 5s. They're all basically the same kinds of kids, but you tighten the screws down a little bit more and broaden the horizons on a couple. But you did the same basic stuff for classes. Like my wife got a chance in graduate school to go to Assisi to teach graduate class.
Okay.
And she was intimidated. She said, "What do I do?" Blah, blah, blah. So teach them the same way you teach your regular kids. She was at Carrollton, and I said, "So yeah." So it wound up. She did something. She gave a student a sticker, and that went like wildfire. Everybody wanted a sticker. These are graduate students who wanted it. So you learn what's going to work, and you deal it that way. And again, if you're yourself, if you're not a phony, because kids know you're a phony right away.
Oh, hell yeah.
They write all over you, blah, blah, blah. Say, look, if you don't like what I'm doing, that's okay, fine. Now, if your father doesn't like it, have your father come in and I'll give to him what I'm doing to you, and we'll straighten it all out that way.
Well, eventually it got to the point where you simply said, yeah, tell your father I taught him too.
That's the whole deal. And the guys would come in at the beginning of the year for the parents' night, and they said, do it to him.
Yeah.
You have permission to just be yourself. Do to him the Panzer experience. Have him go through this the way we did. I said, fine, great, it's good.
And speaking of fathers and sons, you've also hired some tremendous teachers who were Columbus graduates and close to your family and everything else. And I came to know that experience as well. How gratifying was it to see these guys come back, knowing you played a role in their success and that they were contributing to the ongoing traditions and successes of our school?
Oh, I would think extremely edifying. Like we mentioned, Bobby Linfors and Adam Scholler, right?
Yes.
Those are the two that are closest because I remember them in class more closely, etc. I know Scholler was upset. I had him for a speech and creative writing class, and he got a B. So he was upset. I got a B. What's going on? He's a published novelist. Bobby Linfors is a published writer.
Yes.
And Linfors was happy with the English class. And then I was away. Bobby Linfors was in school in the north and was looking for a job down here. You know about that.
Yes.
So as soon as I heard who it was, I said, I'm not there. I don't have to see this guy. Hire this guy. It's going to be fine. And that worked out very well.
Yeah, it did.
Scholler, again, he worked out. Schollers, bowlers, the writing, the different classes, the way he taught Freddie when Freddie was a freshman. And he really helped Freddie out a whole lot with his English and his vocabulary because Fred had a slight learning disability, which we never crutched. He always had to work his way through it, et cetera, et cetera. And he did. I mean, and we credit Adam with really breaking that out for him. And all of the things that Adam has done thereafter, really good. And I like it. They're my boys.
Yes.
So the emulation is just, again, the highest form of flattery is the emulation. And the deal is that they're good teachers on their own. They're different.
Agreed.
They're not the same thing, but the block has been chipped and they're chips off the block and they're not blockheads. So the heck with it. It's a really good deal.
Yes.
I really appreciate that no end.
No, and it is very gratifying. And, to touch on something else you just mentioned, and we've had several guys like this. Your two sons graduated from Columbus. You did not obviously have the chance to graduate from Columbus. You are a Columbus guy through and through. What was it like, though, Fred, to see both Fred and Matthew go through Columbus, see what it did for them and how much it influenced the trajectory of their lives?
Oh, yeah, it's really good. With Fred, Fred grew up.
Okay.
Before he was in high school, we wanted him to play various sports, et cetera, He wanted to sell paintings from his house. The shortest thing, he was going to wear a tutu and ballet his way around the neighborhood. No. You got to do something else. And when my wife said, when you go to school, you got to make friends, you got to do something. So he took it upon himself and he did it. He went out and played football.
Yeah.
He played on the track team. Coach Riley, God bless him, took him under his wing, and he did a great job there. He graduated and went off to the University of Florida, and he didn't make it. He wanted to go to one school, the University of Florida, and his SAT score and mine were polarly opposite. So that
his was non-perfect.
Yeah, no. So he didn't make it, but he had the credentials to prove the disability. Mike Foster was the head of the guidance department there, and we said, okay, fine, is this documented? Yeah, it's documented. Blah, blah, blah. So by happenstance, divine mercy here, the recruiter from the University of Florida came down to visit. He's a friend of Mike, and Mike spoke to him, et cetera, et cetera. The guy leaves for the university again. The next weekend, the fat envelope came. Fred
Nice.
gets into the University of Florida. He graduates 4 years later with the second level of honors, et cetera. I said, how come you didn't get another one? Yeah, Dad, I would have had to write another paper. You know what that means? I said, no, you're fine. So he did that. And like I said, he grew up. He's the only one in the family with a PhD.
That's pretty cool.
He's got a PhD from having a learning disability. Matthew was his own man. He's always been gifted. Did his business. He played the football, et cetera, et cetera. He was in the AP classes and things. He got into, he said, we tried Notre Dame. I said, look, if you make it to get into Notre Dame, you can go. No problem. You'll go if you make it. He made it. He gets off the plane, and he's the Spanish guy. 6'2", 3", red hair.
Yeah.
He's the Spanish guy because of the AP, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Said, okay, yeah. But he's a Cuban Spanish guy from here. He said, Dad, these guys out there are crazy. You know, beaners from California and they're crazy. They don't have the same attitudes, blah, 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 blah. So he never really hung out with the Latin guys there and did his own business and got a master's degree out of Notre Dame, was invited to do his a doctoral degree there. But, hormones, got married, et cetera, et cetera. So he has the master's degree, and he's out there in Indianapolis teaching in a high school called Cathedral High School.
That's right.
Which is affiliated with Notre Dame. And he does my gig. He teaches AP, coaches football, gets into trouble, speaks Spanish, has kids, and he's all doing fine. They were great there. But Matthew called his own. He and Omar and Delgado and Pellegrin and a couple of other mentioned, not to mention criminals, hung together and did all kinds of things that I know about and don't know about. And, there was some good stuff. Like I said, Freddie grew up there. It was great. He and the boy, like Columbus's alumni situation is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that any place I've ever been, where these guys travel around in a bus together. They went to the University of Florida. They do this. They see each other. You can't go any place in the United States without meeting somebody who's connected somehow to Columbus. Oh, yeah. Freddie's up in Washington. He went into the city to do some government work, etc. He's standing in the lobby to get on the elevator, strikes up a conversation, and the guy in front of him is from Columbus. Of course, so they hooked up and did lunch and did blah, 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 blah. It's just unbelievable stuff. It's all over the place. And you can tell, like we said many times over the course of the 44 years, you can tell a Columbus kid with the aura.
Yes.
There's a distinct aura. I wouldn't say it's a halo. That'd be too much, but it'd be tilted a little bit if it were a halo. Or it might be on fire if it were a halo. But there's an aura about it, and you can tell right away, walking through wherever you are, that this kid is Columbus. I don't know your name, but you fit the physical mold, etc. And I know the face. I'm terrible at names after a while, but I can remember faces, etc., and put it all together. Yeah. And some, of course, are more endearing for good and bad reasons, notorious ones or famous ones, and it's a pretty good deal.
Yes. And, what I admired about both your sons is they didn't care you worked there.
No, it worked out really well. No, Freddie, I never had Freddie in class. I had Freddie for homeroom. Yeah. At first year with Mike Nesser. Yeah. And Nesser, remember, his best homeroom he's ever had. So I got for homeroom, so great. But my son Matthew, I never had except, but I had him in AP. Yeah. And the deal was, it was no pressure, no anything. He would be bothered by the guys. Can you get the answers to the tests? No way. I ain't going there. No way. So, but yeah, it was good. It was really good. And he and a kid named Pellegrin and uh, Richard Quintana
Oh yeah,
worked
Rich.
together.
Yeah.
Quintana is known by whomever as the Pasha. I nicknamed him as the Pasha because he pontificates, etc., etc. And I got a picture of him in the Holy Land on a camel, dressed up. He definitely that. So he loves it. Everybody calls him, everybody. Well, Freddie's friends and Matthew's friends, that's the Pasha. So
Yeah.
he and the other two guys are in the class, English class, and they had to go someplace for some honors somewhere at the University of Miami, and they weren't in class. So one of the guys, Adrian Alfonso, is that Alfonso?
Alfonso, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He says, we can't have class today. What do you mean we can't have class today? They're not here. What do you mean they're not here? The guys who answer the questions. They're not here.
Oh, Fred.
That was, it's like the Three Stooges, one after the other, this road to the right.
And you know what's great? Adrian is now the president of our school board.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Rick went away from Columbus and couldn't stay away, and he's back doing his thing. And Omar is the cornerstone of CCNN. You taught Omar how to read, for God's sake.
That's what he says. It was he hung around here with Matthew. They went to St. Brendan's grammar school together. They came up there, blah blah blah. Went to Columbus. Matthew went to the left. Omar went to the right. They always met in the middle. They had a great time playing intramurals at St. Brendan's. They even played for a little bit on the varsity basketball team together for a little bit. And yeah, so it was a good deal.
You know, Fred, here's a thought. Everybody talks about the connection between Columbus alumni. That's a given. I don't think people understand because it's a limited number, just how close teachers become at Columbus. I've talked to people that have worked at other places, and it's a job. You show up, you do your thing, you leave. At Columbus, if you think about the experiences we all had together, it's as tight a group of people that you can possibly imagine. And family is another one of those overused terms. But no, we're family. And the shenanigans and the hijinks that the teachers pulled were in some ways better than what the kids did.
Oh yeah, we learned from them and improved a little bit, a little age, a little more maturity there. We could work things out a little bit differently. But yeah, that's true. Things carried over all the time into it was never going to work. I never said I'm going to work. I'm going to school. Never going to work. And one of the biggest thing was with Brother Edmund, who didn't know me from a hole in the wall. I was a little leery about this kid coming down from New York and the vicarious interview, et cetera, et cetera. And he had the insight to say at the end of the first year, you're going to be the chairman of the English department. Yeah. And he said, I did it because of demonstrating I could do it as opposed to anything else. I said, well, fine, thank you. But he has become a very good personal friend. And it was funny during my time at Columbus, I'd go into his office and I'd say, I'm wearing the teacher hat or I'm not wearing the hat. And this is our conversation is going to be like this. And I mean, he's been at my house, member of the family kind of deal with watching the kids grow up. And even with Brother Angelo, the two of them would come over and have dinner, et cetera, et cetera. It was very close, very family. And you can speak about whatever. And like you said, among the teachers, they were friends. They were people you spoke to, you had a good time with, good, bad, indifferent, happy ones, sad ones. And you shared a lot of stuff with different people.
Yes. And we always used to call it Columbus as a teacher. And I couldn't wait to get there, like you couldn't wait to get there, just to see what was going to happen. It was like an episode of MASH, or as you said, we were the Oakland Raiders.
There you go.
Yes. That's how it was.
Yeah. That teacher conference up in Broward there. Yeah. We opened it up. We took it together. We were the Oakland Raiders of the diocese. We didn't want to stay at the conference because it was what it was. We went down the street, time for lunch, went to the place, knocked on the door. We're closed. I was the knocker on the door. You're not closed now. You're open. And Obi is the one who was upset about having to get stuck with a bit of a bill at the end of that. But yeah, you're open now. You're open now.
Oh, you're open now.
Oh,
Things got a little sideways that day, Dr. Panzer. Yes, they did. But
not to mention Chevys.
yeah, well, just but you know what, man? It was so much fun. And your 50th birthday party, it just seems that 50th birthday parties did a lot of damage. Your 50th, OB's 50th, Fred Foyo's 50th, they were not for the faint of heart.
No, no.
But man, were they fun.
Signori says his couch will never be the same after Mark Bucky stayed over that night from the party. He said,
Oh my
man,
Lord.
It was
Speaking of, and I was thinking of those two guys, Mark Buchholz and Richard Signori, again, they didn't go to Columbus, but they helped create, you know, that aura of the Columbus kid that you were talking about a few moments ago. I really believe that's a direct representation of a lot of the faculty members, you know.
Yes. I guess you rub elbows enough and you sleep with dogs and you get fleas. So the deal is that, those two guys were characters in themselves. They're still friends, two very different individuals. And again, part of it at Columbus is if you went to Columbus and got in the right track of classes, you had college professors as your teachers. Again, talking about the history and the English teachers with the football, your outlook, your backgrounds are totally different than some of these other guys in the class.
Correct.
Very different approaches, different branches of knowledge, characters, background. And there was a great sense of familiarity. And there was not animosity there, at all. Our brother Eugene took exception one time to the Spanish guys calling you by your last name. And he said, hey, Panzer, that's the way it is. They call you that. Say, hey, Panzer, blah, 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 blah. It's not a disrespect. It's a sense of camaraderie. They like you. That's it. They don't say Mr. Panzer. I've been Senor Panzer and Dr. Panzer or Panzer, but it's never been Mr. As we go along.
No, and it's all in the delivery. It's all in the delivery. You know, you could say Mr. Panzer and be sarcastic, or just, hey, Panzer, what's going on today?
Right.
You know, and I think we always took that as a sign of, and I think part of it is, again, knowing that what they were going to become, it was just, you got to wait. And then eventually you'll understand why we did what we did. And
they got a good handle on it. One of the anecdotes Brother Angelo told me about while he was there, before we were first there, very early on, and he was teaching an English class, and one of the kids in the English class, English sucks, but Panzer's class rules.
There you go.
So I said, hey, wow, how about that? And it was nice of Angelo to tell me that. It's fun. But again, it ties up with what you're saying now about relationships and how you deal with people, and you don't be a phony, go in there and do your business on a day-to-day basis. And the kids know what to expect and are really happy when that happens.
Yeah, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. They actually want to be taught. They do. They do.
Yeah. And contrary to what you got to do, they're very tactile.
Yeah.
It's not, they appreciate that. You do it right. There's abuse, but there's tactile, pat on the back, this and this. They're close like that. They appreciate that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let me ask you, Fred, speaking of such things, 44 years at Columbus, 1976, all that was a long time ago. Chalk and blackboards and, now to, smart boards and everything else. A lot has changed. There was, air conditioning was new at Columbus when we were there. So with the changing of rules and situations and everything, do you think the kids have actually changed, or is it just the rules have allowed the kids to be different? What do you think?
I think the kids remain the same.
Yeah.
If they get a chance to be the kids. Now with the societal changes, they've, in my estimation, they've gotten very soft across the board. Obviously, you have your individuals in between, but the coaches have said the same thing. It's hard to find tough guys anymore. They're there. They do their business, et cetera, but you know, a lot of guys they go running to mommy or to somebody else. They, blah, 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 blah. He looked at me, he touched me, he said this to me, etc. Other guys, you know, in the past, a totally different time, you could do almost anything paternal, and the next day the kid comes in and it's fine, it's forgotten, it's all over, and they're looking forward to
Because he
they're back on a
deserved
friendly
it.
basis again.
Yes.
Yeah, like nothing
Yeah.
ever happens. Just go on, let's continue doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that attitude has just changed a lot with the Me Too thing and everything else. The whole world has changed a lot from the time in ancient history of 44 years ago. But
But you
the
know,
kids are essentially the same kids in the middle of it all, and you have to give them an opportunity to be themselves and
agreed.
realize, you know, like Dennis Lavelle would say, you probably don't even cut your own grass. Never mind everything else.
But you know what has never changed? The Columbus sense of humor, the repartee.
Oh, all the
They
time.
have it.
Oh
They
yeah.
have it. I think they get it from the faculty. I really do.
You mentioned my I guess my icon George Carlin, who I really appreciate. Again, his humor is cerebral. A lot of vocabulary, strange things. You know, the 7 words you can't say on TV. Uh, you know, scattered light at morning with the weatherman. That kind of business. Strange little things like that. And
Yeah.
his books, you know, you take the obvious stuff, and one of the big things he said, "I come from New York." And influenza, and I was like, no way. We used to swim in the Hudson and the East River. That didn't kill you. Nothing's going to kill
Nothing
you.
was going
So
to.
that don't worry about that stuff at all. But yeah, that's a he was somebody who I really appreciated his humor. He was kicked out of the high school because of various and sundry transgressions. But he
Things
was
happen.
because of who he was asked back, and he would MC, and he would bring him in, and you know, the funny money raising was there, et cetera, et cetera. And the same thing with Philbin. Philbin gave him $1 million and redid the auditorium up there, and the guys loved it. Even though one guy's asked to leave, comes back, they were being themselves, and
Yes.
they were appreciated. And yeah, when I was growing up and being a student, I wasn't really that close to teachers the way they are here. Students and teachers here have a different rapport altogether, and an appreciation for a lot of friendliness and a lot of conversation that I wouldn't have had with other teachers anyplace else.
Agreed. Agreed. And you came from, you know, you have an educational marriage. Concy spent all those years at Carrollton. How difficult was it for you guys to not bring the work home at the end of the day, or was that just a natural thing? How'd that go?
Well, I guess it went okay. Bringing the work home. Um, yeah, I was always doing papers because as an English teacher, you had to correct papers, and
Yeah.
that was about the only work that I brought home. But other stuff than that, no. The same thing at Carrollton with the rapport amongst their teachers, and the students loved their teachers there too. But I remember being very close with the teachers over there. So again, for them, it wasn't like me. It wasn't going to work. So if you brought something home, you didn't consider it work. You had the stuff to do. You got it done, and that's about it. It was okay. We didn't have any interference with that with our daily routines.
Good.
We got a chance to do all the usual stuff. All the kids went to different activities, the football, basketball, soccer, you name it. You drove the team bus for these guys to go back and forth all the time. But no intrusion with work at all.
Good.
Blended in.
Um, so you did the whole gamut as we discussed earlier, Fred, from chalk and blackboards and overheads and all that stuff to cutting edge technology, all the way, you know, through COVID and all the changes of that. As you look back, 44 years at Columbus, 50 years in education, um, what was most gratifying to Fred Panzer?
Ooh, most gratifying to me was to be able to see these guys use what they were exposed to in their personal lives, tests, etc. You look at the careers that these guys have gotten into across the board. Doctors, lawyers. A couple of guys I had in class went on to the University of Miami for the medical doctoral program. One guy's the head pediatrician for this and this, and lawyers. We've had two Supreme Court justices,
Yeah.
John and Garcia Quintero,
Yeah.
Coriel and Quintero. Had
Yeah.
them. Quintero was a piece of work. He was
Yes,
a
he
villain.
still is, Fred.
Oh yeah. But he was a villain, football player, etc. And he and I got a chance to learn and tone him down. Now we love each other. We've seen each other, family, etc., etc. Coriel was always John Coriel, smart guy, etc.
Yeah.
He's the only guy who has a banner in my classroom. I have these pennants from all the schools.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's the only one with a rectangular banner from Harvard, of course.
Of
And it's
course.
over the door, so that when you go in and out, so like at Notre Dame, you slap the be a champ, play like a champion thing.
Yeah.
Here
Yeah.
it is. You go out there, you slap that. You used to be smart. You think you're smart? Boom! You used to be smart. You're coming out of this room, you're gonna be smart. Right now, you're not smart. Hit that.
The not yet smart. Yes.
You're not yet smart. Hit that, and we'll keep working on it. By the time we finish your 9 months here, you're going to have no birth defects when you leave the gestation period of 9 months in this class. You will go out with no birth defects, and you will be fine. But to see those guys become themselves has been extremely gratifying, particularly home with the two boys.
Yeah.
And then my daughter, Carly Ann, at Carrollton, just to see them and my granddaughter now become themselves. And realize that they say, no matter who you ask, all those people, that they appreciate your having been part of what went on in a larger or a smaller way, but part of it nonetheless.
I'd say a huge part of it, and something I think is pretty cool, Dr. Panzer, is the fact that you and Brother Edmund are the only two people. You're both Hall of Famers, well deserved, but you also have honor societies named on your behalf, and I mean, that's pretty cool, Fred.
Well, when you can't find anybody else to give it to, you pick what you got.
Okay, that way to downplay it, but no, that's got to be very gratifying, and I could not think of a better person to have the English National Honor Society of Columbus named after than you, because we all stand on the shoulders of giants, and there's been great history teachers there. There's been great math teachers there, great coaches there. The English department has always been stellar, but for the last 50 years, you set the standard for not just the English department, but teaching at Columbus. And the things that we learned from you, that I learned from you, you can't put it into a dollar amount, and you can't put it into words. So the only thing I can say to you, Fred Panzer, is thank you.
Well, I appreciate that no end. And then since you're talking about the illustrious Brother Edmund, in my estimation, there was only one person at Columbus to whom I would take a back seat or appreciate direction, and is he. Nobody else. Edmund is top notch, and I think we learn from each other in various things. He has a tremendous sense of humor.
Yeah.
Get to know him. I mean, he's the voice of God on the PA system. When he was the assistant, when he was the principal, he retired.
Yeah.
Well, we the faculty gave him a retirement party to end retirement party. We saw him. I don't know if they have a video of it. He was doing the Charleston in the cafeteria. Can you imagine that?
Dr. Panzer.
Nice stars, yeah. We had a real band and this, blah, blah, blah. And we set the standard for that. And then Brother Francis came in and totally had the other side of the coin and had to tighten up all the stuff that we did so loosely with being ourselves, having a good time, educating people, and enjoying the faculty and the school, etc. So, but yeah, Edmund is part of the major soul material of Christopher Columbus High School.
As are you. And everything you just said is absolutely true. And, I look back on those years so fondly. And yeah, there were tough times, but the overriding thing from our experience and all the characters we worked with was laughter.
Oh yeah,
Usually it's somebody else's expense, of course.
of course, of course. And sometimes it was more largely at their expense than not, but it was always something shared and appreciated one way or the other. And you developed a little story in the tailwind of these things, and
Yeah.
it goes on and on like the Tasmanian Devil's background. There it is, and it's just spinning around.
So maybe what we'll do one time, Fred, is like, when Bob Linfors did the log, Last Will and Testaments, he kept a secret file of what couldn't be published,
Oh
to
yeah,
protect the innocent and or guilty. We should do an episode of all the things we can't actually say right now and keep it for private distribution.
yeah.
But let's think about that. Anyway, my friend, uh, thank you for everything. It's been a great experience. We miss you. And Columbus High School will always appreciate Fred Panzer.
Well, that's really, as I said before, it's edifying, it's gratifying, and I'm able that we're able to get these things together, and we could handle the truth as we
Yeah,
go through this.
the truth. All right, my friend. Again, this has been awesome, Fred. And I hope to see you soon. My best to everybody. And you're looking good. You're
Oh,
looking
it's the drugs. It's kicking in there. They're doing a hell of a job.
whatever it takes, Dr. Panzer.
It's the Irish whiskey, basically, what's going on there. But
Listen, it kills germs. Yes.
it does indeed. It does
Yes.
indeed. And again, I'm delighted to be able to see you as close as we can get for this. Get to see you in the flesh pretty soon.
Yes.
I hope. And it's I really appreciate this. It's been very good. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing. It's a nice thing. Overused word, but it's still a nice thing.
It is a nice thing. And everybody sends their best. And so, Explore Nation, it is my pleasure to have done this great session with Fred Panzer. And maybe, just maybe, we'll do that secret file one someday, Dr.
There you
Panzer.
go. We'll unlock it on Pandora's box and let all the devils out.
All right. So until next time, Explore Nation, take it easy. This has been Buenos Tiempos for sure. So, thank you, Fred.
Okay.
Adelante, man.
Adelante. Okay. God bless you. Be careful.